Hi witches! Today's video is all about perimenopause, menopause and witchcraft. It's a video for the ladies, perhaps for you guys as well, one for the men too maybe. Menopause is considered a taboo subject, which is exactly why I am going there. I think it's really important that we talk about these things. We are going to have a look at some remedies and some natural things that we can do. I'm going to talk about my own personal experience. So if this is something that interests you, then stay tuned and we are going to cover this topic in full. Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, I'm Wren. I'm known as a cemetery witch because I live on a cemetery in the heart of England. And today we are talking perimenopause, menopause, and we're talking witchcraft many years ago. So I thought it was really important to talk about this subject. I'm in my early 40s and I experienced 3 of my friends of a similar age coming to me to talk to me about perimenopause and their experience of it so far. I'd already noticed changes in myself, but when these 3 people came forwards, that really hit home. One of them's a couple of years younger than me, one of them is 6 years older than me, and the other one is the same age as me, all very good friends. And it really kind of sort of switched me into thinking about it, and I realised that the changes I'd noticed, which I did assume to be hormonal, but I realised that actually perimenopause is definitely affecting me as well. I'm not afraid to share my personal thoughts, my personal feelings, my personal experiences. So if you are my brother-in-law or you're my cousin, my male cousin, who's one of my best friends who I know watches all my videos, then you might want to look away. Same if you are any other member of my family. And also if this kind of topic doesn't interest you, then yeah, again, it's not a video for you. So we are going to be getting into some really personal things. We're going to be talking about some things that a lot of people find uncomfortable, but it is precisely the reason why we should talk about this more. Our bodies are not unnatural, they're natural things, and there are lots of things that happen to our bodies throughout our lifetimes that are really natural, and they might be embarrassing, they might feel awkward and odd, but that is partly down to society and the way we have created things. So it's time to break down those walls. It's time to talk about things that are a bit embarrassing, that are very personal, that we wouldn't otherwise share, precisely so that other people feel they can share too. It might help someone. There might be someone out there watching this video who just feels a little bit better because someone else has spoken about this. So what is menopause? Menopause is the total cessation of periods. To be in menopause, you have to have gone 12 whole months without having had a period. It's a natural part of aging, and it happens on average between the ages of about 45 and 55, and the average age for a woman to hit menopause is 51. Now, I was really surprised at that. I thought that 51 was quite young. I haven't ever really looked into this topic until recently, and for some reason in my head I thought it was much older. You hear the occasional story, don't you, of women having babies into their late 50s, 60s, even 65, and I know generally they have help with that because once you get over a certain age, I think I read that over the age of 40 there's less than a 5% chance of getting pregnant each cycle, so that's extremely low. So actually it makes sense that menopause would happen between 45 and 55 with an average of 51. I don't know why I had it so late in my head, but I imagine that this would happen much later in my lifetime. When you think that you hit your 20s, then you hit your 30s very quickly, and then you're in your 40s, and then you're starting to go through perimenopause. It's a very strange thing indeed. Life catches up with you really quickly. I've learned a lot in the last sort of year, and yeah, I suddenly feel quite old, and yet I'm not. So it's a strange, this whole process is a strange thing indeed. Now, there are 3 basic stages to menopause as a whole, the process. There is perimenopause, menopause, and then postmenopause. And basically the process of menopause is just our ovaries, they begin to atrophy, so they, you know, we're running out of eggs and our ovaries are sort of shrinking. They're not in use any longer. So the perimenopause is the lead up to menopause. So this is the period in which women get the majority of their symptoms and their problems. So perimenopause apparently happens in the early 40s, or it starts in the early 40s, and for some people as early as the late 30s, which I just find, for the reasons I've just given, absolutely mind-blowing. I thought that this happened a lot later. It's one of those things where I kind of knew that these symptoms can start and it can happen in your 40s, but again, I imagine sort of later on. And I've heard of plenty of people who've been in their early 40s and they're going, I've just never given it any thought and really connected the dots. That sounds really daft. When I think about a woman's life, I think about we get our periods, and we're very much prepared for that, or most children are. Like, our parents will usually talk to us or leave us a book out, or do both. And then when you're at school, you have sex education classes where you learn about all aspects of your physical health, you know, puberty, sex, what to expect. And quite often at school as well, you have a visit from, we called her the period lady. I remember her coming to our school. I don't remember seeing her. I think my class somehow missed out. I seem to think that the other classes had her in my year, but ours didn't. I can't really remember for sure, but she was definitely a thing. She definitely visited us. And in that respect, there was this preparation for this period in our life, excusing the pun, this phase in our life. And so, yeah, we felt quite well prepared for that in many ways, even though you're very young, and when you get your period, it's still a bit of a shock, and it takes a little while to get your head around it, and there is all the feelings and emotions that are caught up with that, and it can be quite a scary time. Then pregnancy and birth, we're just very, very open about that in society, aren't we? It's not considered taboo. Even periods, you know, are not really considered taboo in the same way. I would say, looking at my children, how they deal with it and how we deal with it is very different. So, for example, when I was a girl, we didn't talk about it, we didn't joke about it with our parents. I kept stuff out the bathroom bin, so my dad wouldn't have been aware at all that I had my period. I had my own bin, very, very covered up. Our kids today will joke about it, they'll bring it up, you know, they'll put their rubbish in our family bin, so it's there, you can see it, and you know, it's taken care of and wrapped up, but there's no doubting that one of them's got there. And I'm so glad that things have massively come along from when I was a kid, when it was, yeah, a lot more hidden, and that just kind of added to the angst and the anxiety and the getting your head around it. So things are very, very different. But then when we get to perimenopause, I find that no one prepares you, no one talks to you, no one tells you about it. And then you start to have these problems, and then you have to work that out. I mean, maybe some people's mums prepare them. I think, again, that's probably something that will become a thing, you know, when my daughters, or my daughter, I've got a daughter and 2 stepdaughters, when they get to the age where that's getting close, then I think we will have conversations about that. Whereas I think my mum, that's not really a thing because of the age of her generation, perhaps. So things are changing as time is going on. She made a comment the other day about, when we were talking about my health, something, and I didn't really pick up on it at the time, and now I'm sort of thinking back, and it was something about, you must be perimenopausal by now. And obviously when we get our periods and we get menopause, it tends to, there's a genetic pattern. It tends to be that, you know, you have a similar sort of age as your mum was, as your grandmother was. There, you know, there's those sort of like genetic hand-me-downs. And so that was interesting, and I didn't pick up on that at the time because we were talking about my heart and we were talking about other issues. But yeah, we've not had that conversation. I've not said, Mum, when did you finish your periods? How old were you? When did you start to get perimenopausal symptoms? So yeah, I'm hoping things are changing. I'm hoping, videos like this will help change the way things go. And I hope that employers, I think they're starting to become, a bit more switched on with stuff like that. But I really hope that in 50 years to come, if we're still here, if we haven't completely wrecked this planet, that all these things will become much, much easier. So what to expect from perimenopause? Irregular periods, hot flashes, or flushes as we call them in the UK, sleep problems, mood problems, changes in sexual function, loss of bone density, vaginal issues, bladder issues. The list actually goes on and on and on. And a friend has told me that in the UK, if you are over the age of 46, if you go to the doctor and you're over the age of 46, they'll just say, yeah, you're perimenopausal. If you are under the age of 46, then they will need to run hormone tests to see whether you're in perimenopause or not. Obviously, if you're like me and you take the contraceptive pill, you take hormones, then I'm assuming that will have some sort of effect on that test. So I'm assuming you'd probably have to stop those to be able to have that test. I don't know that for certain. I've not explored this with my doctor yet. For me, I feel like there's very little point. I don't have the support of my doctors, sadly, because I have a connective tissue disorder and a million things have gone wrong in my body that have, that are validated and proven. It's just created an air where they think I'm a hypochondriac. So I don't go to the doctor as it is unless it's something really, really serious, but there has been lots of really, really serious things. So I think they're a bit sick of me, which is really, really sad. That is not how it should be. I should feel like I can reach out to my doctor, but I don't trust them enough to do that. And there just seems to be a problem with me knowing and understanding my body well. And I feel like if I go to them with a problem, they are not going to help me sort that in a way that I'm comfortable with. They just seem to want to overrule. And I get that they're the doctor, I get that they've got the training, but I also believe it's possible to know and understand your own body and do your own research. And I think we should be allowed to advocate for ourselves. And my doctors don't like you doing that. So I have got no qualms whatsoever. I'm obviously not going to name my doctor's surgery, but I've got no qualms whatsoever in saying that that's exactly how it is with my doctor. And so unless I'm desperate, I simply don't bother, which is very, very sad and probably quite common, I would say, for people in the UK. Our health system, while it is free and it can be brilliant, it's not always as brilliant as you'd think, because you have to get past the doctors first. They're often actually a bit of a stumbling block rather than people that are going to help you. But my personal experience is that I have started having some changes. So I mentioned before, I'm in my early 40s, and I started to notice, first of all, that each time I would be due to get my period, I would be getting sort of the mood differences times 100. So before, I would just be very, very tearful. I would be a little bit less likely to put up with stuff that I would otherwise the rest of the month not worry about. So a little bit more feisty, but generally just an emotional mess. Well, not an emotional mess, just tearful, but easily moved to tears. But that was kind of it, really. That was kind of as far as it went. And then I noticed recently that now, before I get my period, I'm very tearful. Like, I could just cry all day. And actually, I get real feelings of hopelessness. I have feelings that I don't want to be here anymore, and quite intrusive thoughts in regards to that. I'm trying to word things very carefully so that I don't get removed by YouTube, but very, very strong feelings in that department. Just very helpless, just very much feeling like a failure. And now I'm getting sort of those feelings. well, maybe not those feelings, but let me describe some other feelings. So you know when you are hormonal like that and you're about to get your period and you also feel that like nothing fits, nothing looks right, you feel yucky, you feel disgusting, you feel like your skin's awful, your hair's awful, your body shape's awful, and just nothing is right. Well, I started getting those feelings at other times in the month, and then the odd helpless day in the month as well. So it started off first with the very, very down, helpless, wanting to not be here feelings, and very, very strong. And then I noticed that on random days in the month I was getting the yucky feeling about myself, just generally feeling really rubbish, like down on myself, just physically, mentally, just in terms of what I've achieved in life. And I was getting that randomly, and then I started to get the hopeless feeling throughout the month as well. So now it's just a total mishmash, it's just a total roller coaster, it's just a total like potluck of what I'm going to feel when, which is really, really difficult. There is a noticeable difference to what I was before. But now that I've recognised this, I can kind of deal with it. I think that's the thing. I think if you just keep having these days and you're having them and you're experiencing them and you don't recognise that that's what's going on, you can get a bit lost in them. And it was around about this time that one of my friends mentioned to me that she was sort of struggling with these type of feelings, and I was like, yeah, I've been having them for a long time as well. You're not the only one. And then we spoke about perimenopause, and I still hadn't really kind of clicked my brain into thought. And then two other people, one younger than me, one the same age, and they came to me and they said they were having hormonal issues due to perimenopause. And that's when the penny like really, really properly dropped. Oh my goodness. And then with the other symptoms that I'm having, I'm realizing that yes, I'm there. So occasionally I'm getting like really, really hot. So when I'm getting ready in the morning, sometimes I will get so hot that I just feel like really wretched, really awful, like I'm going to pass out, like I need to lie down, just terrible. And I have to open the front door and just get some air. And I get really, really hot at night as well. For someone who gets so cold so easily, I get really hot at night. And my husband, he's very, very balanced in terms of his temperatures. And I'll say, oh my goodness, wasn't it hot last night? And he's like, no, I was cold. And that's not normal. So it's just these little things that are creeping up on me. I've noticed some difference in my skin. Very, very sensitive now. So like if I put perfume on, it can burn. Using certain cleaning products and stuff like that, if it gets on my skin, before it wouldn't have bothered me, now it is burning like it's acid that's been poured on me. And apparently that is really common in perimenopause. I've had some skin changes down there. Things are starting to sort of look different and feel different and get darker, change colour a little bit. That's probably one of the most frustrating ones. And I'm getting a lot of arthritic pain as well. I don't know if that is because of a reduction in estrogen, and I'm also getting really bad breakouts of my skin. So there's a definite drop in estrogen. I actually take the contraceptive pill for my skin. I'm on a really high estrogen pill, and that has always cleared my skin, which is very, very bad without it. But now, even with that, I'm getting quite bad breakouts. So my estrogen levels have obviously dropped down low enough that the high estrogen tablet I'm on is still not enough to kind of like prop it up. So I don't know what will happen there. I really don't want them to take that away from me, because I think I would just look like a teenager forever. I don't know what we can do about that. That's really concerning for me. That is something that really, really affects my confidence. So all sorts of stuff going on. My belly fat is being stored slightly differently, I've noticed. Now I've got like a very, very slight bump, even when I'm sort of, you know, I've never really put fat on my stomach when I put weight on, and I am sort of at my heaviest weight, but usually that all goes on the hips and I still have a relatively flat stomach, and it still the fat wouldn't collect in the way that it is. Now I also have some pelvic issues going on, So some things have moved inside, things are dropping down. This is partly due to my connective tissue disorder. So some of that will be like low lie of some of my pelvic organs and bits and bobs. But again, that has probably come about from hitting an age where your collagen production is decreasing, and so everything starts to kind of atrophy and droop and break and stuff like that. So yeah, very, very interesting times. It's almost like having like going through puberty again, and like some body changes, except when you're young, those are kind of changes, natural changes that happen to everyone, and everyone tends to have the same sort of changes. Whereas this, again, yeah, I'm sure lots of older women have these changes. I've been noticing older ladies' bodies a lot more and feeling like, oh, okay, so this is my body now. But I do have some extra issues because of the connective tissue disorder. So, you know, maybe other people don't have, you know, the stomach issues that I'm having and don't develop that little sort of bump. I mean, I know plenty of women do put on weight around their stomachs. But for me, that's always just been a part of my body that's been very, very flat. So I'm having to get used to a new body. And there is some amount of like surrender that's needed here. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I got really, really upset by it. Now I'm just like, it is what it is. I have to accept it. It's me. I have got more weight on me at the moment because my heart's not sorted yet. So I can't do any exercise at all. I have to be very careful because I've got ME, so it's not like I can go running and do things like that. I have to do a lot of walking, which is very good when you've got Ehlers-Danlos loss because it's strengthening and it actually really helps and stops a lot of the muscle pain of fibromyalgia, all these issues that I have. But now I literally can't move at all without triggering these like heart episodes. So I'm having to just surrender, go with it, accept that I'm getting older, accept that it came a lot younger than I anticipated, and accept that this is the natural journey of the woman's body and that I am moving into crone. So I'm going to embrace that. I'm going to embrace the whole crone energy. I've always said that I've kind of felt like I was going into crone a bit earlier anyway. I feel like, you know, with my grey hair, the fact that our kids, well, my daughter's sort of growing up now, she sort of entered that age where I'm sort of not so much of a mother. So what does perimenopause mean culturally? What does it mean to us in society? I think people look at it as loss. I think people look at the aging process. When you're a woman and you get to a certain age, I think people associate that with loss, which I do find, even though I've been struggling a bit with this, I do find weird because, and it's probably the fact that I've been a pagan and a witch now for more years than I haven't. You know, I discovered this world very, very early on, and it's probably done me good because when I think of crone, I don't think of loss. I don't think of, you know, death at the end. I actually think of wisdom. I think of freedom in some way, you know, that you have the knowledge that makes you free, that your children grow up and they start to live their lives. I'm not, you know, if you're one of my children and you're watching this, I'm not saying that we're not free before, but it's a different type. It's just a different sort of part of your life that just is very, very profound, but in very different ways to being a mother and to not being a mother. You know, all are beautiful and all are part of the same thing. I think that we lose some amount of relevance in our society when we get to the age of about 45. I think we are definitely considered that we're past it, that we're has-beens, that we should probably be jealous of younger women in some way. I very much get a sense of that. However, for me personally, I'm not jealous of younger women. I actually feel like I'm at a better stage of life than they are in many ways. Like, I love the 30s. I loved turning 30. I loved turning 40. And I think my 40s are better than my 30s so far from what I've seen of them. And I think because I've always been faced with these images of maiden mother crone, For me, it's all just part of the journey and part of the process, and I think I've been very, very lucky, and I definitely think that this is why we need to embrace this topic more, talk about it more, because I think even if you're not pagan and these things don't resonate with you, we need to introduce this, you know, subject of getting older and perimenopause. We need to get that into the, you know, the wider domain, because it will just help people cope with this so much. This is a part of nature, this is a part of being a human, this is a part of who we are, and this is what happens to us whether we like it or not. We're also very much encouraged, aren't we, to colour our hair to look as young as possible for as long as possible, and part of that is sex sells everything. We for some reason want to be attractive and looking young at all times, and of course we do to a degree, but there is more to life than sex. And also, why can't you be sexy with grey hair or silver hair? I mean, I have dyed my hair, as you can see. This is because I was very, very silver. I'd grown all my silver out. I then experimented with some colours, and because my hair was white in places, they just weren't washing out. They were semi-permanent colours. They were washing out for the main. I destroyed the quality of my hair a little bit by panicking and trying to strip one of those colours out, and then I realised that wouldn't work, so then I redid it, and my hair, it just needed, I had something that I needed to do and I needed to be smart, so I put a dark colour on, and again I've kind of got into that sort of vicious cycle again of colouring my hair. However, at Samhain I decided I would stop. I feel like my hair was sort of much better condition without dyeing it, and I've just, you know, I'm just gonna go through these periods of pleasing myself, but I personally don't feel that I need to dye my hair to be young, to be attractive. I don't buy into those narratives. And it was really, really interesting once, I've told this story before, when I went into a service station and I was buying a KFC, believe it or not, of all things, and the guy behind the cashier, he was like, "You've got grey hair." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "But you're young." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "But you're young and you've got grey hair." And I said to him, "Yeah, that's very, very normal. That's very normal. Like, a lot of women have grey hair at my age, but we cover it up." And he was just absolutely, like, literally dumbfounded. He did not have the words. And then when it came to me collecting my food, I'd stood off to the side. He did a double take yet again. He just couldn't get over it. He just could not get over it. You could see he was really, really confused by this. And I thought that was a real shame, is that people in our society generally don't understand that you can be very, very grey in your early 40s. I think I was about 40 at the time. Actually, it was a few years ago now. And he just did not understand that, and I just thought, how sad. And there'll be lots of women as well that don't know what their natural hair colour look like, don't understand that people are naturally grey at that age. It's all part of this process. I mean, you can see mine coming back through now. It's very, very silver on one side. Not so much this side, although I am getting there. So I'm going to attempt to grey that out again. But yeah, we are encouraged, aren't we, to stay as young looking as possible. And I don't think this is just about sex, and it's not just about fitting in to the world that we've created, but I feel that it's also about hiding our wisdom. I think it's, you know, all part of that you know, downtreading of the female. You know, we live in a patriarchal society and have done for many, many hundreds of years, but women were once revered, women were once honoured, we were once seen as powerful because we bring life into the world, and because we are caring and we become knowledgeable and understanding of certain parts of world that perhaps, you know, perhaps the men weren't a part of. And I just feel that this is just all part of dumbing us down and actually hiding how wise we are and our years and I just don't want to be a girl forever. I'm a woman. I think older women are viewed very often as irrelevant, undesirable, unwanted, past our best, that maybe we're jealous of younger people. we perhaps should, you know, step out of the way for younger people, that we've had our time, that we're, you know, past our sell by date. And actually most of the victims of witch hunts were, you know, age 45 to 50 or over. Like a lot of them were over 50. And I guess we can go back to the medieval period and we can look at how women were viewed back then. But interestingly, in the medieval world, menopause wasn't the only focus in terms of aging. It wasn't just women. Men were also considered when it came to aging, and that's something that we have now lost. I don't think that we, not that we sort of focus on women's aging and menopause very much, but we definitely don't look at men and how things are for them. And I think that's something that we've lost, that we should perhaps bring back. You know, we should look at aging for everyone as a whole. I mean, there are obviously going to be changes for men as well. There are going to be hormonal differences. I mean, maybe it's not quite as extreme. You know, men can keep producing sperm and children right up until they die. It's very different. They don't have a store of eggs. You know, hormonally it is a bit different, but they still age, they still have stuff going on. So maybe that is something we should look into as well. We should campaign for, we should bring back, just basically taking care of everyone, looking after everyone and educating everyone on everyone. But back in the medieval world, men and women's aging was considered. Humoral theory later decided that a lack of menstrual bleeding in women caused an imbalance, and therefore women were considered to be tainted. They were almost unnatural. So because they were no longer bleeding and, you know, releasing eggs, they were unnatural. They were something almost a bit otherworldly. And this, some people think, leads to the narrative of the witch, the old hag, the wrinkled, unnatural, dried up, tainted hag, which is really, really sad. And they consider that sexual behaviour and activity should stop for women at this stage. And again, if a woman wanted to be intimate with someone, or be intimate with her partner, or be intimate with her husband, beyond this sort of age, this age where you're considered to be a hag and, you know, past your sell by date and unnatural, then that was considered a cause for concern. That added to this idea that someone might be a witch, and so therefore someone might be accused of witchcraft, or having relations with the devil. I mean, when I used to go to Witchfest International in Croydon, I've not been for a good sort of probably 6 or 7 years, maybe a bit longer, but one time I went probably 15 years ago, and I was given a leaflet that kept these old ideas going, that witches have sexual relations with the devil, which is absolutely bonkers. The police moved them on, but the leaflet was, it had these like medieval pictures on the front, almost like those old sort of like woodcuts. Just absolutely bonkers that these stereotypes still exist even today from way back then. So it was considered that witches, older women that were jealous of younger women, would give them the evil eye. You know, this jealousy, this resentment that they didn't have, you know, youth anymore, would cause them to give these younger women the evil eye. So these older women were quite often considered dangerous, which is really, really sad. So now, where are we at now? Certainly within the pagan community and world, like I've said, we embrace the crone, we celebrate the crone, we honour her, we respect the fact that she has years under her belt and she has wisdom, that she might have mothered children. And as women, we mother, whether we've got children or not, we mother all sorts of things, all sorts of people, all sorts of animals. And we accept that as you get older, you gain wisdom, you gain knowledge, and that is something to prize and to be proud of and to look after. So we understand that there's power in having this wisdom, and like I said, I think that's what's helping me transition into this next period. you know, of my life. How do I feel about this? It's a bit of a mixed bag, really. Like I've said, it's like going through puberty again, in that my body's changing and I'm having to deal with that and accept that and go, that's not what I'm used to having. It's not what I really want. But then I have to tell myself, no, this is natural. This is, you know, what needs to happen. I'm not enjoying having mood issues. I am glad that I have twigged on to what's happening. I'm glad that my friends have come forward and spoken to me, because that's been really helpful for me. So I should probably reach out to some of my friends that I haven't spoken to, that are my age roughly, that are probably going through it with themselves. It seems like most people go through this silently. I want to add that it's not all doom and gloom. Some people, and it's really important to note this, some people don't have any symptoms whatsoever. Some people just sail through it and nothing really changes other than their periods stop. But for many of us, the change in hormones is enough to just set all sorts of chain reactions off in the body. I'm enjoying not having the pressure to look my best. In some ways I'm sad that I don't look my best anymore. In some ways I think I look better than I did at certain ages when I was younger, but I'm missing that youthfulness, you know, that you spot in photographs, that you spot when you watch yourself back on videos. But it's a massive, massive load of pressure off to not have to look my best. And yeah, I'm just going to enjoy being a bit of a swamp witch. That is freedom. That's, you know, one of the freedoms that I associate with being with a crone. I'm not enjoying the body changes, the ones that you can't see, and I do feel sad that my reproductive days are over. My journey with motherhood has been tumultuous. It's been difficult. It's been very sad at times. It's been tragic at times, and I've spent a lot of time reflecting, and it makes you do that for some reason. Again, it must be the hormones and the way it makes you think and feel about everything, but I have been reflecting a lot over motherhood, the things I would have liked to have done differently, the things I would change, the things I think I did well. And I'm sad that my opportunity for having a baby has probably gone. And the reason I say it's probably gone completely is because of my other health issues. My body would not be able to stand the process, the absolute onslaught of, you know, getting bigger, hormones, needing to push things. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. And my heart at the moment is not stable enough either, I don't think. So my partner and I, my husband, should I say, I've slipped into sort of old thinking there, but yeah, we never had one ourselves between us, and now it feels like that decision has very much been taken away from me. And that decision was taken away from me physically before I hit the perimenopausal period and before I start thinking about all this. But it's perimenopause, so if I was just going through perimenopause, it would probably still be doable. But it's the two things combined, you know, I can't do it, and now the perimenopause is just serving to remind me that those days are over. And so I feel quite sad about that. I miss the children being small. I miss my daughter being small. I miss her being little. I miss her being with me all the time. I miss being able to cuddle her. I miss watching her grow up and me being young and us doing that together and kind of growing up together. I mean, I didn't have her very, very, very young. I was, how old was I? I was about 27 when I had her, but it still feels like you're growing up because you're still very young at 27. And I miss that, and I kind of wish I could recreate that and have that again. And I do wish that my husband and I had met when we were younger. I wish that we'd dealt with certain situations differently. I think we were very much steered in a direction so that, you know, it was very, very difficult for us to have children. But that's fine. Like, if we really, really, really wanted to have done it, we still would have done it. But all things considered, it just didn't work out for us, and my health is the thing that caused that. And yeah, it's sad to think that I can't get myself fixed and then do it because I'm running out of time, because I'm too old and he's too old. And, you know, we talk about it and say, well, maybe there is a way, but we're too old, we need our sleep. So yeah, it's sad. It is definitely a period of reflection. and just like looking back, it's very emotional. I'm sure some of my friends who haven't had children are feeling the same way, because they know that they're getting to the stage where the decision has been taken from them. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Not making the decision yourself. And even though I've been blessed with one daughter and 2 stepdaughters, you know, I had several miscarriages. I had 4 miscarriages, so I've only carried 1 baby to term. And I've had the absolute honour and privilege of being mum to her and 2 stepchildren, but I do feel like I've sort of missed out. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting time. So I think in terms of coping, I think being kind to yourself is really, really important. I think if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, and you're watching this video, then be aware if things start to change, like on a hormonal way, if you're starting to get some of those hormonal feelings that you would get at certain times of the month and they're cropping up other times, just make a note of that. Just park that in the back of your head somewhere. Reach out to friends. Note any sort of physical changes, make a note of them as well. And if you've got several of these things going on, then it's probably fair to say that you've entered perimenopause, and that's just all starting up. Speak to your doctor. I know I've said that I'm not going to talk to mine, but I feel like I know enough about my body and my health, and I can do my own research and I can look after myself to a degree. And also I do very much favour a natural way of doing things. So I'm going to be mentioning shortly some things that you can do to help yourself along this journey if you have just started or you're about to, or whatever. I think accepting that you've done your best in life, that you made the decisions that you did when you needed to in terms of like having children, trying to accept as well that if certain things didn't work out for you, then they didn't work out. Easier said than done sometimes, I know, but I think this period in our lives is about acceptance, and so I think we have to try and exercise that if we are going to cope with this like highly emotional period. When I'm feeling really down about myself and I literally feel like not being here anymore, because I look back and think, well, what have I achieved? I have to remember that achieving stuff is not all about being economically viable. It's about doing your best as a wife, doing your best as a mum, maybe doing your best as an employee, but just accepting that you did your best, and that your best might not look like someone else's, but it was your best. So, and accepting that you are now moving to a different chapter, I think that's really important with the physical changes. It's just going, look, this is just how it goes. This is how it goes for all women. Some women are luckier than others in terms of, what they might be given. Like I've now got this like weird belly thing going on. That is just my lot. That's just what I've been given, and I have to accept that. This is a new chapter. And I think it's really important to take time with friends, to take time to pamper yourself, to try and make yourself feel as good as you can as you navigate this period, as your body changes, as your moods change. And I guess knowing that eventually this will be over is a good one. I think asking for help from people is really, really important as well. Like I've discussed this with my husband. I know he's had some physical changes as he's got older, and he shared those, and I've said, well, actually, I've noticed this, and telling him how hormonal I feel sometimes, how besieged by hormones I sometimes am, and that I don't need anything from him other than a hug, really, and just to listen, and that really helps. And quite often it's just literally saying, I feel like this is how I feel in this moment, and that's literally all I need. I don't need anything more than that. Using aromatherapy is a really good idea, using oils to uplift and to make you feel positive. So using these in a diffuser is the best way. If you're going to start putting them on your skin, then really you need to talk to a qualified aromatherapist who is licensed to help you with physical health problems as a result of the menopause symptoms. But you know, getting an aromatherapy massage is a really good idea. It could be really beneficial. That's if you're not contraindicated and it's safe for you to receive that. But again, go and see a qualified aromatherapist. Otherwise, have a little look on the internet and find some oils that you can put in a diffuser. Be very careful if you've got pets, because they can have severe reactions to them. Neil's Yard Remedies, they do some really good basic beginner literature on using essential oils so that you can do that safely. Gentle exercise. Exercise balances our hormones. So, I mean, if you can do more than gentle exercise, then brilliant. If you can get to the gym every week, if you can swim, whatever you can do, walking is always brilliant. Some women have to be careful because they develop osteoporosis at this time of life and they can cause themselves injuries. Usually that tends to be the much older women, but exercise of any kind is absolutely brilliant, and especially if you can go out for a walk and you can get some fresh air. I really feel like when I've been out in nature and I've had some fresh air, I feel like that really kind of like blows away the cobwebs, and I feel refreshed and I feel a lot better than I did. The difficult thing is getting yourself out there sometimes, but if you can make yourself and you can remind yourself how much better you feel when you do it, then you're going to be much more likely to do that. Watching comedies, it sounds really cliched and it sounds really contrived, but actually, you know, if you're feeling like you're in a shit mood and you're feeling down and you're feeling fed up, if you know there's something that's going to make you laugh, then watch it, put it on, and it can just turn your day around. Practicing acceptance, as I said before, is really important, and I'd say research as well, because the more you understand and know about this subject, the more you can be prepared for it, the more you can, you know, understand if certain things happen, go, oh well, okay, it's part of this process. Knowledge is power. I've always said that. And, you know, like I said at the beginning of the video, we don't get taught about this. We don't really get prepared for this part in our lives. Suddenly it just happens upon us. And that's exactly how I felt that it was for me. It literally happened upon me. I had started to notice stuff and thinking, wow, that's changing just before my period. That's different. I don't normally react in that way, but I hadn't put those pieces together. I was just totally oblivious until other people started to mention it. And then, you know, you go, well, hang on. Yeah, actually, I'm in perimenopause as well, because this, and this is happening. So yeah, research, speak to your doctor if you need to. Maybe you can get a test, maybe they can offer you some sort of support, maybe they can give you some advice moving forwards. There are supplements out there for menopausal women and for women of a certain age. There are lots of natural remedies as well. Again, you could speak to a herbalist, but there are natural remedies that you can buy from places like Holland and Barrett that contain things like red clover, evening primrose oil, St John's wort. You have to be careful with things like St John's wort because that can interact negatively with antidepressants. It's a natural antidepressant, so if you are taking other medications, then please ask for advice in the shop or with your GP. There are contraindications for certain herbs. You've got to remember that about 60% of our medicine are what's the word I'm after? I can't find the word in my brain. Typical perimenopausal symptoms. 60% of our medicines are made from plants still. So it's not just alternative natural therapies that involve plants, our actual medicines do as well. So you have to be careful because certain plants won't work with other plants. Get a good diet, plenty of vitamin D apparently, good sleep hygiene. If you've never developed good sleep habits, then now if you're perimenopausal would be a really good time to do that, because the sleep or lack of it has an effect on our mood. Now if you're in perimenopause, then that can affect your sleep, so it can be a bit of a, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It can be a bit of a vicious cycle. But if perimenopause is affecting your sleep, then that is a good reason to try and get into a habit as well. We can have CBT, we can have hypnosis, and also apparently it's very, very good to eat foods that are high in phytoestrogens. So this is things like tofu, flax, linseeds, sesame, beans, soybeans, and apparently ladies that follow an Asian diet, so I'm thinking here of Japan in particular, apparently they tend to have less perimenopausal symptoms because of the type of diet they have. So I'm just going to conclude that there. Lots of information there. Obviously go and do your own research. You know your own bodies, you know what you're working with. What do you think? Do you want to share a story at all? There is no pressure to. I'm in my early 40s and I'm definitely in perimenopause, and I've definitely noticed some very distinctive changes. So here is my story. This is how it relates back to witchcraft, how we were seen. I'm hoping that we've moved on somewhat from the whole witch and hag and dangerous thing. It's funny though, isn't it? Because as well, if you have an older lady that goes after a younger guy, she's considered a cougar. If you think of a cougar, you think of, you know, a dangerous cat with big claws, something really, really scary. And yet older guys date younger women all the time. And obviously I'm talking about people that are old enough to date. I'm not talking, when I say young guys, I'm not talking teenagers, but just generally speaking, if a woman is older than a guy, so it could be 10 years, he could be 40, she could be 50, but she would be considered a cougar, you know, or the guy's a toy boy. It's weird, isn't it? We don't have these same names and these same stereotypes for men. Men seem to be free to do whatever it is they want, and yet every aspect of us, our behaviour, our journeys, our biological journeys are somehow negatively named, aren't they? They're looked upon negatively, which is a real shame. I think it's time we start clawing our power back, and the way we do this is by talking about our bodies, by sharing, by opening it up to society and the world, and not hiding stuff, and being proud of who we are. Let your silver hair grow. You have earned it. That's your wisdom showing. Obviously it's personal choice. I am always pro-choice. If you want to dye your hair until you die because you don't want to look silver, then that is fine. I believe in choice. If I choose not to dye my hair, I think that's just as important. But I think that we should have freedom as women to choose, and I don't think we should be demonized any longer for natural processes. And I think we just need to get over ourselves. You know, we need to get over the embarrassment, because some of that is what it is. Some of this is, it's not that we're victims of, you know, everything and everyone else. Sometimes it's just us. We don't feel that it's right. And I'm happy to be one of those voices that is happy to be open and talk about it, because I think it's really, really important. So if you watched this far, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go and do your own research. This is by no means medical advice, nor am I an expert on this. This is just a little bit of reading that I did on this, and just sharing some of my own thoughts. So if you got this far, well done. And if you feel like supporting the channel by subscribing, that's awesome. It just takes a few seconds and it really supports the channel. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be back soon with another video. Lots of love and blessings. Bye.